Hello, everyone. I'm like everyone else, sitting around in Detroit, watching, observing, checking out Detroit Lions free agency, and nothing's going on. And it's the middle of the afternoon on Tuesday. I can understand that the Detroit Lions are still in negotiations with their own free agents just based on the moves that they made. But like everybody else, you're excited to see what the Detroit Lions could potentially accomplish in free agency. I'm John Macaroon with Detroit Lions on SI. It's my birthday today, and so I had an opportunity, going to hang out with family later. But right now, like everybody else, I'm just curious what the Detroit Lions are going to accomplish. Now, look, like everybody else, I could clearly I'm impatient, and the fan in me, the person that wants the Detroit Lions to have as much success as possible, looks around and says, okay, your brain says this free agency class might not have had the most impactful players, but you do sense that here's the thing, there's a lot of layers to why the Lions have not made a bold move yet. Maybe they're targeting the biggest fish in the sea. We'll talk about that. Maybe the realization that we all have is that it's true the draft might be the place where the position that we all want the Lions to address will be targeted. But let's start with the idea that there's a couple camps that I can clearly see, and each camp has their own philosophy that would dictate how free agency would go. Now, I'm not going to judge either camp. I'm not going to plant my flag and debate and judge those that are more about the sustained success. I respect that philosophy that the better the team that you have, the longer the reign that you keep with your own good players, the longer the window is open, the more cracks you have at it. But naturally speaking, when your football team has never, ever appeared in the Super Bowl, the level of urgency is sky high for a large segment of supporters. And I'm of the opinion, and I fall into, if you play poker or you're somebody that's ever played no limit Texas Hold'em, there are moments when your mind, the thought crosses your mind. I have all these chips. Let's be bold. Maybe I got the goods in my hand. Maybe the two cards are 6-9 or they're two aces. But the thought when you play poker at times will be, what happens if I just shoved all in? It's a good feeling. I've done it. I've shoved all my chips with the best hand, the best 5 card hand in Hold'em, and without. It's a fun adrenaline rush. You like the idea of ultimate pressure, and so there is a segment, and I'm in it. In regards to, if you ask me how the Lions should do it, I do not care about sustained success. At this point in time, I believe that the Lions could tear down with their general manager, Brad Holmes, and rebuild it within 5 years. You have trust. So I'm in the camp, and I think it's pretty clear from all the times you've seen me, from what I've said, I'm in the camp where I say, let's shove it all in. Let's make the push. This would have been an interesting year to do it, or maybe even last year, where you take every opportunity to push for that one season. And I know injuries happen, but I think the message clearly sent would be, hey, we are going all in 2025 before all the cap numbers get crazy and you got to go and ask Jared Goff for some money to, you got to go and ask Jared Goff to restructure and Amon-Ra St. Brown to restructure and all those kind of situations that may take place when the cap numbers get wonky. Right now, you're still gaining the benefit of players under their current contracts. So 2025, you could say, all right, let's target the positions of need and let's find players that would fit. Who would that be? Maybe you could have said it was a Josh Sweat, somebody that had success. Maybe you say, okay, here are the two players that we like. Maybe we like a Milton Williams. Maybe we like another player as well along the defensive front. Maybe you like a linebacker. Maybe you like Paulson Adebo. Maybe you find an individual that you target and you bring in here in free agency that you want to load up, and you get multiple players. You get one play, a defensive tackle, an edge rusher, a linebacker, a cornerback. You go out and you allocate and you go and target the best player that you feel fits at every position on defense, because that's the position that everybody believes needs to be upgraded. And you go out and you give these contracts and you go out and you pursue players that are going to help you win in 2025, this upcoming season. Are all four free agents going to get hurt? I mean, it's hard to say because in 2024, a lot of Lions got hurt. Ali McNeil, Aiden Hutchinson, Alex Anzalone, Derek Barnes. So it can happen. But the message sent is this is the year that we're targeting to go for it. And it's clear when that message is sent. It's clear to everybody, okay, the Lions are going all in. And there's a certain segment that believe that. Now, I don't think it's wrong because, if it fails, you push all in for 2025 and you fail. Okay, 25, 26, 27, you unload some of the talent. It's the cost of doing business. When you go all in and you have the second best hand, there is a small chance that somebody else has the best hand and you go broke. Okay, but I still trust Brad Holmes that in 3 years, okay, he tries it again, rebuild through the draft, deal with some of the cap ramifications. The Saints, with an elevated cap, you can get out of cap nightmares in a creative way as long as the cap keeps going up $25 million each and every year. It's not as devastating. It's bad to be in cap peril. It's not a good thing. Nobody wants to operate like that. But more often than not, with the cap going up and opportunities to restructure and cut. Look, just look at the Russell Wilson contract. You thought that was one of the worst contracts ever signed. The Broncos got out and made the postseason, and now they're working their way out of it. Huge dead cap numbers. So it's not like it's if the Lions were to push all in, that it would be a devastating end all be all for the next decade for the team. It's just a philosophy of, okay, we're going for it right now. We're pushing because we got a young Aiden Hutchinson, a Lee McNeil, we got Jared Goff, we got two running backs that we believe in, an aging offensive line. If not now, when? In 26, where Goff's cap number starts to go up, Taylor Decker's number goes up, Amon-Ra's goes up, and you got to sign continued more guys that are on their first. You got to allocate more funds to some of the talent that's on your team. I think it's tougher in 26 to make those moves. So I understand that there's a calculated risk that general managers want to really establish a team that can not go backwards and still win regular season games and advance in the postseason for many years. And I think the Lions are set up that way when you have Jared Goff and you have Penei Sewell. You have a lot of core pieces that can be successful. So the argument to me of not pushing and not going after it is tough because there are ways to address it. You're not forced to give Aiden Hutchinson the extension. You're not forced to give Kirby Joseph the extension. I know it's not popular, but you're not absolutely forced to make those decisions. I know they will. It's fair to reward them. They've earned it. But Aiden's a little bit more risky coming off of that injury. You can, potentially maneuver in different ways to be able to have the team that you want and make more moves. I mean, look at the Patriots. Do you think that Terrell Williams and Mike Vrabel are going to target a player and pay him that much money in Milton Williams, and he's not going to be good? I think he would look good in a Lions uniform. I think Josh Sweat might have looked good in a Lions uniform. I think that, you could have allocated some funds to some players that would have been more impactful. And do I think the Lions could still make moves at the edge rusher position? I could, but with each passing transaction, the caliber of player is less and less that you could add. And so it lends to the question that, hey, does that mean right now they're targeting Trey Hendrickson? I doubt it. I'm sure that they know what it's going to cost. It's going to cost north of $35 million. And I just don't think with Aiden potentially making $40 million and then another player that could command on the opposite side another 35 to 40 million. I don't think that's the approach the Lions want to take, but why not? In an all-in situation, what are you waiting for? Are you waiting for 26? Because to me, what's the message that you're sending? The message that you're sending is you trust the players on this roster, the core, with Derek Barnes, Anzalone, Aiden, that you trust this core rounded out with some targeted free agents is good enough to beat the likes of the Commanders, 49ers. Now it's possible, but I think it's hedging. You're lessening the risk that the Commanders have a special day on you and the postseason you have a bad day. If the Lions defense was better in 2025, if you swung a little bit in 2024, if you swung a little bit harder for a younger defensive lineman, which I know it's tough, it's incredibly tough to do. But if you would have went with a more impactful free agent, other than the individual in Zadarius Smith, if you would have went more impactful, maybe you would have been in a different position. Maybe in 2023, instead of parading Donovan Peoples-Jones as the trade deadline move, you pushed then. So there is a notion of just being a little bit more aggressive. Now, there's, swings here. I'm saying just a little bit more aggressive, just a little bit more higher end. Maybe not a $25 million edge rusher, but maybe you take a chance on a Josh Sweat. Maybe you take a chance on an external free agent that you bring in here to round out this football team. And there's still moves to be made. The door is not closed, but the more minutes that pass as we hit midday here on Tuesday, the more minutes that pass, you kind of realize, okay, they're probably going to address the edge rusher position in the draft, which is fair. This draft class would warrant finding young players there. But when you're first signing, what's the message that you send? You want to run it back with Marcus Davenport. Okay. I might not have announced that the first day, because clearly that's a signing that is going to be a little bit more risky and a little bit less popular with your fan base. I do think they could have let them know, hey, you're our guy, but let's just wait until Wednesday, until the official day. You're our guy, and hey, if it's the gamble, hey, if someone calls you and offers you, I don't think people would have minded had that gone down. But Marcus Davenport has a lot to prove. He's a player that the Lions would covet because he's on a prove-it deal. He needs to stay healthy and prove it. The odds are long that he's going to be productive when you need him most, but I understand the value you get in a Marcus Davenport. It's a risk, it's a gamble, and I hope it pays off, because the gambles that Brad Holmes has taken have not worked out, and they've been, really detrimental with Emmanuel Mosley and some of the players that have been brought in that have not been able to stay healthy. And you recognize, okay, the Ennis Rakestraw draft pick was, you're gonna have to be patient with him as he develops, as he dealt with injuries the first year in Detroit. So, no projects. I believe this draft will have no projects from the Lions. I think each draft pick may not start, but you want them at least competing to start. So I'm not begrudging or judging people that say, hey, be a little bit more aggressive. I think the fan base is at the point now where they believe, okay, with this talent, it's basically in the way in which I phrased the question to Brad, I thought it's a compliment. I think those that indicate, and it's kind of like an oxymoron, but I think I can explain it. Those that want to push all in, I believe, and I'm not judging, but I'm emphatically stating, I think it's the ultimate compliment for someone like me to say push all in. That leads the belief that you're closest than you've ever been. Why would you not want to push all in and gamble? Are you scared? Are you not wanting to allocate funds to people that typically, if you are someone commanding $20 million or more, are you not the best player? Are you not one of the best players at your position? Are you not in that camp where, hey, you could make the argument, well, you needed to pay $16 million to a cornerback because in the 4 years you haven't developed one. You went out and you got Cam Sutton. That didn't work. Davis ended up being a rental. That didn't work out because of the fact that he, fractured his jaw and was not available when you needed him most. So draft and develop. Where was the cornerback? You waited and tried to patchwork what you had, and it didn't work out. I say the Lions are close, so push all in. You're right there. I think you're on the brink with the talent that you got. 4 or 5 impactful free agents that you think, okay, maybe they're not an A+ fit. Maybe they're an A- fit or a B+. Maybe they have a certain, maybe they can't play 4 spots along your defense. They can't play Sam, Will, Mike, coverage, run. Okay, this guy's great against the run. Get him. This guy is solid against, hey, this guy is maybe not the best in coverage, but when we know when we send him, there's a good chance he's going to get there. Maybe he'll make a couple mistakes here in recognizing, coverages. But hey, when we call his name to be aggressive and blitz from the edge, he's there. He can win one-on-one battles. Maybe not looking for the exact, hey, I need this one guy to have 5 tools. Maybe he's got 3 really good tools and you make the scheme work. So those that say, oh, no, don't push, don't add talent. You would hope that Brad Holmes would be able to identify talent that could come in here. And I know that there's a lot of moving parts. You have to have the other side agree. You have to have, you are bidding against 31 other teams. But I just think that signing your own guys versus just a couple calculated risks in free agency might, could have turned out differently for the Lions. And so I believe they're close. I believe it's a compliment to say, hey, push all in. You guys are right there. I believe the Lions are right there on the brink of being world championship caliber. Just do a little bit more to get over the hump. Maybe you make the move for Deebo Samuel. Maybe you make the moves that the Commanders are making. Maybe you trade for an offensive lineman. You trade for a guard. Maybe you allocate some funds to an individual that's a little bit higher price than you really want to pay. It's not illegal to overspend on certain talent. You cannot have value at every decision that you make. It's not possible because, as you can see, the Lions are still sitting with no rings. So once the Lions organization gets their first ring, then you can say, okay, how do you sustain this? And let's tear it down and rebuild it again in the model of, hey, let's have 10-year playoff run, because you risk in this model being the Bills. And that's where I think all the angst is being driven from the fan base, is that they believe, okay, right now, based on the work that's being done, the Detroit Lions are building a consistent playoff winner. What do you need in regards to being able to get into the NFC Championship and win and get into the Super Bowl and win? Because there's layers to this. You can be playoff good, and I like playoff good. It's nice. But I sense that the fan base hurt when this season went down and all those injuries and you lose to the Commanders. You would have had a better defense. Maybe, if you didn't take, a couple of free agent moves that you swung on injured guys, maybe those guys could have been, if an Amik Robertson goes down, maybe you have another defensive back that's available that was not on IR. The list of IR was wild, so it is an outlier. So you can't judge the season too wild. But I believe those that are pushing the Detroit Lions to go all in and be aggressive believe that the team is the closest and they want the payoff. They're close. So they're willing to gamble a little bit. Now, not recklessly. I'm not saying, hey, you give a Malcolm Kuntz 6 years and $120 million and you are reckless, but there's talent out there. It's not a great class, but it's not terrible to where you can't round out a football team that already has a great core. Credit should be given for the core. Credit should be given for the draft. But there's been some misses, clearly. Fatu Melifonwu now gone. You drafted Hendon Hooker. You drafted a bunch of projects. Those are valuable assets. Draft picks are commodities. And the draft and store and redshirt is not a proven policy just yet. The Lions are trying it, and they're trying to see, hey, let's test our coaching and test how we develop players with Manu and Broderick Martin and players that you want to end up performing for your team in 2-3 years. But the window is now for this football team. So I would say, ideally they could have made 3-4 free agent additions from this class that I think could have made this football team really well. Now, it's a different philosophy. Some say, a young defensive tackle, a young edge at 22, 23 could help put you over the top. Maybe just the signing that you made with DJ Reed. He's a veteran. But, to me, I like Carlton Davis. I might have been willing to say, hey, Carlton Davis, show him a little bit of more interest, a little bit more aggression. Maybe he takes a little bit more, if you said you were willing to pay 12, but you end up paying 16 for, DJ Reed, maybe you take a swing and you run it back with Carlton Davis. But, money talks. And I don't know. I don't think the Lions were going to be comfortable paying $20 million, $12 million more. But, it's close, because some of the weaknesses that DJ Reed has could have been made up with the physicality of Carlton Davis. So you did replace Carlton Davis pretty well. And even there are things that DJ Reed does that's a little bit better than Carlton Davis. So that's a wash. You didn't maybe get a lot better because there's still going to be a question mark of right now, can DJ Reed play in man coverage? His skill set should translate to that based on what he's able to do, but there's still a question mark because he played a lot of zone and he played opposite of Sauce Gardner. I'm curious to see where the Lions are going to slot him. So everybody's sitting here waiting, twiddling their thumbs, wondering what's going on with the football team. Now, look, and there's also, too, the caveat, too, that I think is driving the push those chips in the middle approach is that the schedule is harder. Your schedule is a first place, legit playoff road schedule, and that just makes it so much tougher. Now, I think based on everybody's talk and how they're dealing with things, the perception is that the home schedule should be much more favorable for the Lions to be able to get wins, but the road schedule is tough. Commanders, Eagles, Chiefs, Bengals, Ravens. You're playing the creme de la creme of the AFC and some playoff teams. So that road schedule is tough. And you're now, when you look at it too, you can downplay. I don't typically downplay moves made in the division. I think the Bears got better, not better enough, not significantly, drastically better enough to overtake the Lions, but to be more competitive in the division. I think they targeted their offensive line need and they got better. It's more costly. I think that people are happy to say, wow, Brad got a young team and got more value. Value is great. But in the end, I still look at it like everybody else. The Vikings, Bears, Packers in this run in the last 4 years are all at 0. No rings. I think the Lions are closer than the rest of the teams to the division, but the gap is closing. It's going to be tough. I don't think they're going 6-0 in the division based on the moves right now. And again, I could do all the editing and do all the work, and the second I hit upload, they make a big bold splash. But guys, don't be scared of bold splashes. It's costly, but it doesn't automatically equate to disaster. So you're saying that the Lions can't put together one in 48 hours, target one individual they feel could be of value and work it out with the agent and be the winning bidder based on this team? One? And maybe not. Maybe they targeted their 3 guys and they're all off the board. And they're like, okay, if we don't like these 3, then we're going to the draft. And that's information that I do not have, that I'm not privy to. But I still am of the opinion that fortune favors the bold in everything. Bold, take some swings. Maybe it's a guy that you don't have graded all that well. Maybe a B+ player, as opposed to, hey, these are the A+ guys we give $15 million to. Maybe you continue to scour the landscape and look at football players. All these players are busts that are being signed by the Commanders and Vikings and Bears. They're all bad news. No, there's going to be some hits. There's going to be some misses. But I think free agency, and I respect those that say, hey, free agency should round out a football team. But I think right now it's clear. The Lions strategy has been, and probably will be, take care of your own. Kirby, Aiden Hutchinson, Amon-Ra St. Brown, Penei Sewell. You can't argue with a lot of the moves. But now we're getting to the point where the Brad Holmes is going to have to decide, all right, between a Jahmyr Gibbs and a Jameson Williams and a Jack Campbell and a Sam Laporta, some of those guys could depart. And you could say, yeah, a player of Trey Hendrickson's caliber could cost you a Jack Campbell down the road. But I'd have a ring. I believe that, and I believe that the Lions are probably not just one edge rusher away, but 3 solid defenders away. You could even, make it a combination of, hey, role players, 5 really good upper echelon role players away. Maybe you're going to get them in the draft. But I think that, I don't think that as we stand right now, midday on Tuesday, that you're that much closer to a Super Bowl. I do think you're still one of the leaders in the clubhouse, but I still think that the Commanders are right there neck and neck with what they're trying to accomplish and upgrade. They're kind of making their push, looking at offensive weapons to try and approach you and to deal with you. And they got the mobile quarterback. But here's the tough part is that the Lions ideally come back fully healthy, but Ali McNeil might take time, Aiden Hutchinson, or to start the year. Sometimes you can't afford to start the year slow. It's all going to also, some luck will play a part in terms of how the schedule is developed. So to me, I'm always of the opinion of being aggressive. And if you're a good general manager, you can rework. Hey, okay, we pushed all in 25, it didn't work. All right, now we start making some moves. We start making some calculated risks that we gotta take advantage of. Maybe you sacrifice a player that, okay, hey, you consider, you can't. Most teams don't have 13, 14 core guys. There's certain number that you can work with and then replenish. That's why NFL not for long. The league is built for you to kind of restock it and redo it over a couple seasons. So I'm always of the opinion that fortune favors the bold, and the Lions could be bolder. And I respect those that say push. I'm not trying to downplay it and then just blow smoke up everybody's butt and say calm down, relax. No, you should be antsy. Each minute that the Lions haven't made a move is another minute that another GM is calling. Hey, I got this much more. I got this much more terms. There's another opportunity for them to say, do you really want to go to Detroit and back up, be behind Malcolm and Derek? If you're a better linebacker than what they have. Every minute that you don't sign someone, the agent's taking advantage and calling 4 other teams. Because the NFL is full of egos. They want also the dollars, and they want the general manager to be calling. So, and I'm curious. I think the move that might be the litmus test might be Levi Onwuzurike. I'm curious to get your guys' sense. Do you want Levi back? Depends. If he gets $15 million a year, 3 years, $45 million, whew, dude, it's one of those situations where he's not going to earn top end dollars, but he could be in that 13, 12 to $14 million range. Do you give him 3 years, 36? I'm curious how that plays out. Another move that was made, first and foremost, credit to Dan Skipper for being able to earn another year in the NFL. Credit to the Detroit Lions for bringing back a player that's a fan favorite and a good rotational piece on that offensive line. And you look at it, and Miles Adams is a role player, the defensive lineman. It's not going to move the needle tremendously, but they're taking care of their own. And some more role players to pay attention to, Pat O'Connor, Kyle Pecco. Those are the kind of signings I expect to kind of sprinkle in throughout the rest of the week. And maybe that one. Who is it? Who do you want it to be? Is it Trey or bust? Is it another edge rusher that you could see coming in here? Or do you say, all right, is it good enough if they go to the draft and get a young, hungry defensive lineman? Is that good enough? Is that the player that can help? Listen, all of this, and that's why the Lions community is great, because I think at the core, it's all in pursuit of winning. It's all in pursuit of what does this football team need to do to get that ring? And that's all that someone like me that sits there and analyzes the team that wants this for you guys as much as possible, for my nephew who loves the Lions, and for those that are supporting. Every ounce of criticism is not meant to knock the team. It's meant to say, hey, are they ever so close getting there to the Super Bowl? Not yet, just based on the early moves. That's why it's the early update. I may come back in a couple hours and be like, all right, they did it. Erase everything I just said. But in the time being, they're still rounding out how to be a good football team in 25. I don't think just yet that the doubt should still be there. Are they Super Bowl good? Remember, they're better than the Lions have ever been. But now you're talking big boy football. Are they as good as the Eagles? Are they as good as the Commanders? Are they as good as the Rams? Devontae Adams. They're messing around. They're peaking. They're like, hey, we think we can do some things. I think you're right there. Those are the teams. The Rams and the Commanders. They're nipping at your heels. And so you got to make sure, all right, Devontae Adams against Terry and Arnold. Ask yourself, who wins that right now? Devontae Adams versus Amik. I give Amik a great shot to compete and battle. He went up against him. So 2-1, got your work cut out for you, but you know the game, so you can help. So that's a lovely chess match that can get out there. DJ Reed. But that's why I think, again, fortune favors the bold. Be bold. Go for it. I don't see the harm that everybody puts out there like, oh, my God. It's no, fans should want the best players. That's why they clamor. That's why they're online. That's why I'm sitting here talking, rambling for 30 minutes. I want something to go down. I want this football team to get better with every hour that passes. Every player, hopefully, that is added stays healthy and is able to help this football team. So I respect those, because I believe those that want to push all in believe the teams actually have the most support, because you guys believe that they're closest. And those that are like, oh, no, they just believe that they believe that the Lions are there with what they have. I don't know. That's being a little bit hopeful, too hopeful, in my humble opinion. So we'll see how it rounds out over the next 36 to 48 hours as the Lions continue to target and evaluate and scour the landscape for free agents. Thank you for at least listening, entertaining, and message at Detroit Podcast. Special birthday edition. Wanted to talk, wanted to get that off my chest. And like everybody else, Brad, you can't cook. You don't turn on the heat. Can't cook unless you're in the nice kitchen. You know what I'm saying? I think he's built a nice kitchen. He's got the good ingredients. I think there's just a little bit more that needs to be done. And I'm curious what that will be. How bold? What kind of spice are you going to put in this mix? How expensive are the talent that you're going to bring? It's all depend. Hey, you get what you pay for. Bottom line in life, across football, sports, you get what you pay for. Can you win a Super Bowl with a new crop of 2025 talent and the talent that you've already paid? That's the biggest question mark. I just think the biggest issue with the Lions right now, their external free agent policy, I think is B+, and I think it needs to be A++ to get to the highest level of the National Football League. I'm John McEnroe. Thanks for listening. If you disagree, please message me. If you think everything I said was wild, hit me up. Let me know why. Let me know your strategy and say it succinctly within the characters, because I'm getting 1,000 messages and I appreciate it. And I appreciate those that reach out. But be bold, message, debate. Let's talk sports. I appreciate it. Thanks everybody for listening to the Lone Wolves Detroit Lions podcast.